Welcome to the Report. I appreciate you guys for taking this time to hear me out here on the Report. Man, we got a show for you today coming off a great live stream yesterday. And boy, oh boy, speaking of that live stream, just when you thought the Lakers and Knicks were the story last night, as you see right here, the Lakers defeated the Knicks, came back to win 113 to 109. But nope, the players aren't even the big story right now. It's the media involving a player. That's right. We got LeBron James versus Stephen A. Smith. If you guys don't know what happened in this one, we definitely about to talk about it. We're about to get all the way into it. So let's stay tuned and let's start the show.
Tell me what they wanna see me for. Hit me out, here we go. What's the report? Tell me what they wanna see me for. Hit me out, here we go. What's the report? Tell me what they wanna see me for. Hit me out, here we go. What's the report? Tell me what they wanna see me for. Hit me out, here we go. What's the report?
All right, so we're about to get this thing going. But before we do, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. We're trying to crack 2,100 subs. So be sure to hit the subscribe button for me. Leave a comment and let me know what you guys think about the subject we're about to talk about today. You see the two gentlemen on the screen. You got a representative of the Lakers, LeBron James, and you got ESPN's newest big contract guy as we scroll up right. I think we got it right here. Yeah, Stephen A. Smith, who just news broke yesterday that he signed a 5-year, I believe, a 5-year contract extension worth $100 million. And man, did he have to put that contract to use real quick, because last night during the Knicks Lakers game, I thought it was after at first, but it was actually during the game, probably halftime. You can see by the background. Maybe halftime, but I probably do anyway. So LeBron James came and confronted Stephen A. Smith. They had a little discussion. What was said exactly? Some people saying he said that keep my son's name out your mouth. My son ain't got nothing to do with this, as you see right here. And Stephen A. Smith, he said something back, but LeBron James walked off, and that was that. So and this happened. I woke up to this around 4 a.m. I woke up to this right here and saw this, and I was like, what? Like, so the Lakers and Knicks aren't the major story coming out of this. And it's not only that. It's not only Lakers and Knicks. You also got the comments that Charles Barkley made. But we're going to do a separate video about that. So it was three big things that happened. You got Lakers versus Knicks, Stephen A. versus LeBron James, Charles Barkley versus ESPN, Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A. and all them. But we're going to talk about this one on this video. So yeah, the Lakers did beat the Knicks last night. And a lot of where this stemmed from, we're going to hear what Stephen A. have to say. But we're also going to show you where this stemmed from. And I guess we can show that first. And of course, we'll give our comments, because I'm of the mindset of this, man. And this thing was concerning Bronny James. And it is escalated. Of course, people gonna pick sides, but it has escalated to a point like to where it's not even that serious. Nobody said anything personally about Bronny James, disrespectful or anything. It's strictly about basketball, and the guy is a basketball player, NBA player, so he's not above reproach. But we're gonna get into all that. But first, this is where a lot of this started right here. If you remember Stephen A.'s comments, back on his show about Bronny not being ready for the NBA, stop forcing it, mainly talking about LeBron James. And he did mention how somebody from LeBron James camp texted him and pissed him off, because they were saying that he's questioning LeBron James's fatherhood. But let's hear a little bit of it right here.
I was on First Take, my day job on ESPN earlier this morning, and I spoke about this, and I felt the need to elaborate even further because a couple of people text me and pissed me off, and they know who they are. People close to LeBron James talking to me about questioning him as a father. Come on, y'all. I mean, it's gotten to a point where this LeBron sensitivity is just beyond the pale. You call him the second best player in the history of the game, you're insulting him because you said he's not the GOAT. You're saying that at age 40, we've never seen anybody do what he does, but pointing out at times how he may not have hustled back on defense in a key pivotal moment, and that's a problem. You give him all the praise in the world when he drops 40, but he has a bad night, and you say he had a bad night, and you're hating. It's ridiculous. But never before has it been more ridiculous than it is right now, because the reality is that we got to be real about what we're seeing when we talk about Bronny James. I am not a person that had a problem with Bronny James being on the court for the season opener with LeBron James. That was a phenomenal moment to see a father on the court with his.
So we're not gonna get too much into all that. I just wanted to that's pretty much, the snippet of it right there. Like, that's what he was saying. He went on to talk about, not having a problem with the moment, the father and son, but it did get out of hand to the point to where it just got cringe. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's a 55th pick. Like, what do you expect from him? Well, you're forcing him down. You're forcing him on people as if he was a top lottery pick. And it's cringe to see when Bronny James come into the game. Well, first of all, when the Lakers are up 20 points or so, and the game is well out of hand, there's not enough time, and the crowd is chanting, "We want Bronny, we want Bronny." It's like, they don't chant that if the Lakers are in a tight game, 2 minutes left, 95 or 110 to 111. The reason you're not hearing those chants is because the people know that Bronny ain't ready for this situation. So it's like, if you're not chanting that in close games, why are you chanting it in blowouts? Because it's clear that he's not ready for this level of competition. And you have a right to say that. So LeBron James coming at Stephen A. Smith last night the way he did, it was weak. It was weak because you put your son in a bad situation, in a bad spot by doing that. Your son is not above reproach. He can be talked to. He can be criticized as well. I'm going to do my job and give my fair critique. Nobody said anything disrespectful about Bronny. It was strictly basketball. But let's hear what Stephen A. have to say, and we're going to follow up with more.
Welcome into First Take on this Feel Good Friday. Thank you for being with us. Obviously, Stephen A., an incredible game last night in
Fair use. Fair use, by the way. Fair use.
LA. You were in the building, and we'll get to what that means for the Lakers and Knicks in just a moment. But, S.A., there was a moment in the game that we want to address.
That was LeBron James coming up to me, unexpectedly, I might add, to confront me about making sure that I mind what I say about his son. Can't repeat the words because they ain't suited for FCC airwaves. That's what he was doing. I thought long and hard about this over the last few hours because I had no intentions, Molly, of talking about this at all.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it was a one-on-one, I wouldn't say a conversation, but it was a one-on-one confrontation. But then I wake up and everybody from ESPN and my agent and everybody else were sending me that this thing had gone viral.
So he wake up to it just like the rest of us. Like, I woke up to it as well, seeing this thing, not expecting to see this at all because, of course, this was about Lakers and Knicks. So yeah, this was about Lakers and Knicks. So nobody expected to see a confrontation between Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James.
And so ultimately it was unavoidable, and that is why I have to discuss it now. That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a father. And I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard. By all accounts, he's obviously a wonderful family man and a wonderful father who cares very, very deeply about his son. And based on some of the comments that he had heard, or shall I say, I think he thought he heard, he clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say, and he confronted me about it. For the record, his agent and friend, Rich Paul, has my number. Maverick Carter, who works under him, has my number. LeBron James knows how to get in contact with me if he wanted to. He never called, because had he called and wanted to talk to me, I would have accepted that call. Had he wanted to see me, I would have flown out and I would have seen him and I would have had a conversation man to man. But that is not what he elected to do. Instead, he elected to confront me while I was sitting courtside. Ari Emanuel, the head of William Morris Endeavor, one of the agencies that represents me, along with Larry David, was sitting courtside. I was with them for the game. And he walked right up to me and he said what he had to say. And apparently he feels like I was slighting his son. Now let me tell you what I feel. What I would have said if we were in a different environment, because I was not going to engage in a confrontation at that particular moment in that setting. But if we had that conversation, I would have said to LeBron James.
Stephen A is explaining this thing as if Bronny James is not in the NBA, or he said something about LeBron's other son, Bryce. Like, he was giving a critique on an NBA player. I don't recall him ever calling Bronny out of his name, ever calling Bronny trash, ever saying he sucked his dad, and all these insults that you would think was being said by the way this thing is being explained. You would think that this is what was said, like Stephen A cursed Bronny out, disrespected Bronny, talked about Bronny's off the court issues, things like there's no issues that we know about, and I hope that there's none. But you would think that that's what Stephen A was doing and that's what LeBron was confronting him about, but it's not. This is strictly about basketball. Just remember that. And people are approaching this situation as if, taking the side of LeBron as if Stephen A was out of pocket. Like, out of pocket has a meaning. Out of pocket mean that you were saying the lowest of the lowest. So words have context. Words matter. Just put some context on it, I should say.
James, I never would speak negatively about your son. I was talking about you, meaning you, LeBron James. I have nothing but the best wishes for Bronny James. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that he flourishes into an NBA star. Usually in other sports, we see all-stars, and on occasion, we'll see their children become stars as well. That doesn't really happen with the NBA. I sincerely hope he's the exception. By all accounts, he's a wonderful kid. And I don't know anybody who roots against him, and it certainly isn't me. But in the same breath, at the time that we were talking about him, he was percolating to such a degree that the Bronny James stories had gone viral. And so we had to talk about it. And when I said the things that I said, I wasn't talking about Bronny James because my attitude is he's a rookie. It's going to take some time for him to get himself together. He'll be just fine, especially with J.J. Redick and the staff coaching him. I was talking about the position that he was put in by his dad, because LeBron James has been on the record, and he has said, and I'll read the quote here. There was a quote that he gave in February of 2024. The work and results will ultimately do talking, no matter what the size. If y'all don't know, he doesn't care what mock drafts say. He just works, earned, not given, etc., etc. But he also had said that his son could play on the Lakers right now, and he was better than half the dudes in the NBA.
That's exactly what LeBron James said. He said, man, watching League Pass right now, watching some of these dudes play, and Bronny is better than half these dudes, or something to that nature. That's what he said. But again, we don't see Bronny James on the court of a tight game like we saw this one right here last night. He wasn't on the court. Is there a reason? If he's better than half the dudes in the league, why wasn't he on the court? And this was when, I think even before he was in college, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. But if at that point of Bronny's career before the NBA, why wasn't he on the court during this game right here? If he's better than half the dudes in the league. Half is a lot. That's a lot of guys in the NBA. But yet you only see him on the court in crunch time against teams like Utah and blowout games. The only time you'll see him against the Knicks is if the Lakers are up 30. Against the Celtics or the Cavs is the Lakers up 30 with 2 minutes or 1 minute left. And the crowd is chanting, "We want Bronny, we want Bronny." You, if I'm not mistaken, you saw him in this game against the Knicks, February 1st, in this blowout win. Let's continue.
In the aftermath of all of that, he instructed everybody before the draft that y'all want me, draft Bronny. Wherever Bronny is at, that's where I'll be. I'll do whatever it takes to play with my son for a year. It's not about the money at that point. My point months ago was that because of who you are, one of the top 2 players in the history of basketball, in my estimation, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes with that for his son. And when he talked like that, and what have you, anything that goes awry as it pertains to his son, there's going to be a microscopic eye, even more intensified, on Bronny James because of his dad and what his dad had said. And that's when I was talking about, come on, man, this is the situation that you're putting him in. That's where I was coming from. I could be a bit more outspoken about it, but to be quite honest with you, to be in that moment, to have LeBron look at me the way that he did, for me to be a father of 2 daughters, for me to know what fathers, how much love fathers have for their children, and to hear what he had to say, it was all about his son. It was almost as if he was saying, you know, you and I, because he and I don't necessarily vibe, it's high and by, we keep it moving. Neither of us lose sleep over it, and it's been that way for years. But it was like he was saying, keep that between me and you. Almost as if he was thinking that anything that I said about Bronny was a result of him. And in that situation, again, I wasn't talking about Bronny. I was really, really talking about him because of the position that Bronny was in.
The fact of the matter is you have a job to do. You did it. I thought you did it well. No, if you did say anything malicious about Bronny, it would have been covered by everybody. And you would have been under fire because you've been under fire plenty of times before. This won't be the last time you're under fire. This is who you are. You're always under fire for any comment you made. We know the political stuff that you're talking about, angles and stuff. So the fact of the matter is, if your daughters were covering Bronny James or one of your whatever, and he felt that, and Bronny felt it was a slight, come on, you give him, like, it would have been a confrontation. So ain't no, you know what I'm saying, bringing that aspect of it to me doesn't really compute because you have a job to do.
Upset, I could tell. He could have called me. I'd have came to see him. I'd have had a conversation with him. He could have been just as upset face-to-face, man-to-man, as opposed to being courtside at the game. I had no idea that everybody saw it until I woke up this morning. But it is what it is. In the end, like I said.
Buddy, you're in a arena. You are in Crypto Arena in Los Angeles, California, where the most popular LA team is playing against the New York Knicks, and you didn't know that anyone saw it? Stop it. Stop it. Come on. You know people saw that. It was Lakers versus Knicks in Los Angeles. You weren't covering Hornets versus Wizards in Charlotte. You were covering Lakers versus Knicks in LA. Stop playing.
You know, I as a father, I get it. I'm not offended. I'm not insulted. I don't have any animosity or animus towards LeBron James for this. Nothing like that. I don't think he cares, but neither do I. I'm just stating fact. None of that exists. If I was in his position, I can't definitively say I would not have done the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming him one bit. I get it.
And I do get that part. I do get that part. You can't definitively say, but hey, I'm not in that position. I'm on the outside looking in. And on the outside looking in, there's a discussion that can be had if necessary. Nobody said anything maliciously about Bronny James to warrant LeBron James coming and cursing somebody out, trying to be a tough guy and things like that. When he could have just called. He had all this time to call. I mean, yeah, you want to pull up in person, do so, but LeBron James's intentions was to never have a conversation. That's why he didn't call. He didn't want to have a conversation. He just wanted that moment because he knew that cameras were rolling. He knew that people were watching, and he just wanted that moment to say, "I checked Stephen A. Smith. This is what happened." Yada. And Stephen A. knows that. He knows how to play the game. He knows the game. He knows how it's played. So let's not front here.
I understand it. And there's a part of me that aches and hurts because of it. But unlike a whole bunch of people with their podcast and beyond that talk about the NBA, I covered the NBA. And it's my job to talk about the subjects and the subject matters that matter. I work for ESPN. I'm here. We have the #1 morning show for the last 13 years and counting. God has blessed us with that.
Big dog status.
There's a lot that's going on, and there's a lot of stories that are there to be told. And I just feel it's necessary to remind people, Molly, I was raised as a journalist. Let's be very, very clear about what that means. I'm not one of those that get into people's private affairs.
Speaking of that, we're going to hit on that because that's very key what Stephen A. just said. I don't know if he's going to talk about it because I haven't seen the clip this far. He said he doesn't speak on people's private affairs. Let's see if he broaches the topic that I'm thinking of that came to my mind when I saw this little confrontation. Let's keep going. Let's finish out and then talk about that.
You do on a public platform for public consumption. That's what I cover. That's what I do for a living. And if you're in the NBA, that applies to you. I don't want enemies. I live a very good life. I like to make people laugh and smile and have a good time and all of that other stuff. But I also get paid to call it like I see it. And what I said at the time, I stand by what I said. It wasn't even any reporting. The facts were out there. And what I was saying about LeBron is fact-based because of what he said and the things that he said leading up to his son getting drafted and ultimately being in the NBA on the same team as him, as opposed to being a Boston Celtic or a Golden State Warrior. There is no way around that. And when you are born and raised as a journalist, not born and raised, but when you're raised as a journalist professionally, you don't want enemies, but you ain't paid to make friends. You got to call it like you see it. And that's what I did. So again, in closing, I just want to say, I'm not upset. I don't care. I wish that it wasn't in that kind of atmosphere. I wish it was in a private setting.
Yeah, so that's it on that. And again, he didn't back down from his comments. I guess I myself was expecting him to take the big dog approach, like, I ain't backing down from nobody. You know, that Stephen A. approach that he usually take. But he didn't take that approach, the tough guy act, like LeBron James did. He took the approach of, you know, I understand what he's saying. I'm not upset. I'm not upset. Like, you know, he came to me as a father. But again, Stephen A. didn't say anything, in my opinion, that warranted LeBron James doing that. But ultimately, Stephen A., and I don't care. I speak my mind as well, objectively. I'm a Laker fan. A Laker fan first, I should say. So you make of that what you please. LeBron James wasn't interested in having a conversation with you. He's a grown man. He's smart enough to know that he could have called you at any time when you said what you said. He knows that. He knows he could have called you. But LeBron James doesn't like you because you think he's number two. It really had nothing to do with Bronny. It was about him. He doesn't like the fact that you, like, it doesn't matter, like, and you alluded to it in that clip that we watched, a little bit of this one right here, where you talked about how Bronny James, if you call LeBron James a top two player, that's an insult. If you say he had a bad night, you hating. If you say all the right things about LeBron James, oh my goodness, he went off in this game. Oh my goodness, shot the ball lights out, had crazy good passes for assists, block shots, defense was on point. LeBron James went off, but man, he went 8 for 9 on threes, and you can make a joke like, man, that 1 3 he missed out of the 45 points he scored, the 15 rebounds, 20 assists, the great defensive performance with 10 blocks and blah blah blah. I'm exaggerating a bit, but you criticize the fact that he airballed a logo 3 in that 8 for 9 performance. Every other compliment that you just given him is going out the window. He doesn't care. Because you're going to be labeled, oh, see, look, he hating. Look what he said. He going to talk about the airball. But if you just mention that little snippet, even if you don't even make that the main topic of discussion, you're going to be labeled a hater for talking about the airball logo 3 or just anything in general he does that you didn't like. Not even just a performance on the game. Maybe the Space Jam movie. I liked the movie, blah, 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 it was this and this. I just didn't like this part. And you're a hater. LeBron James he doesn't care that about it's not really about Bronny. It's about him and you labeling him second best behind Mike and your allegiance to Michael Jordan. That's what it's about. Because your voice is a loud voice. You are the face of sports. You're Stephen A. Smith. And so when you say things, people are listening, whether they agree or disagree, you get a reaction. And people are listening, and he knows that. And that's why he wanted to create that viral moment. He knew cameras was rolling. He probably planted the person in there that recorded this thing. Who knows? But he knew. All that fake anger and kind of slight. You look at him, bro. He kind of looked up. He kind of looked at the camera when he left, like, baby, look, he looked at the camera. No, he looked at the camera. I wouldn't be surprised if he planted this right here himself. Because he looked at the camera. So this wasn't about LeBron James. Look at this. Confronting you. This was about Bronny. This was about him. And that's what gets me. Like, you didn't say anything maliciously towards Bronny James that warrant this man coming up with this fake mug and things like that. Look, he didn't want to have a conversation with you. You wanted to have a conversation, like you said, not in that setting, but he didn't. That's why he didn't want to let you get a word in, because he knew if he did that, then he would have to rebuttal, and he couldn't do that because he knows that you didn't say anything that bad about his son personally. You were talking about basketball, and that's where you kept it. And just to end, if you all remember, before Bronny was even at USC, do you remember Bronny James? Hold on, let's pull it up. All right, so I couldn't find the video on The Breakfast Club, but I remember when this video came out of Bronny James before he was even in college smoking weed. And you know how Stephen A is about the weed. We all know how Stephen A is when it comes to the weed. Stay off the weed. We know how adamant he was about, what was his name from the Cleveland Brown, Josh Gordon, I believe, and just everybody. Bronny James was caught, you know what I'm saying, he was on video smoking weed, and I remember Stephen A going on The Breakfast Club. Again, I couldn't find it, so we'll go back here. I remember Stephen A going on The Breakfast Club, and they asked Stephen A, Charlamagne and them, ask him why didn't he cover Bronny James in the marijuana video. And Stephen A said something along the lines that, and I'm just referring back to him saying he don't get into people's personal business. He was just saying, I forgot exactly what he said, but it was something about, it not being a sports subject. It was a personal matter for LeBron to deal with, if LeBron wanted to deal with it or however. But he didn't talk about that on First Take. He didn't talk about it. Even Shannon and Skip at the time didn't talk about it. No major media outlets covered that. And I don't care that they didn't. But it's just to Stephen A's point, just to end with, like, he didn't even broach that subject, something that he's very strongly about when it comes to athletes. And he said nothing about it. So it's just evidence that, you know what I'm saying, like, it wasn't personal. And he didn't say anything personally about Bronny James. And again, like I said, LeBron James had an agenda. He looked at the camera, as you just saw, in my opinion. So, and that was that. I'll leave it at that. But let me know what y'all think. But yeah, LeBron did confront Stephen A. Smith. I thought it was weak because it didn't warrant it. Nothing happened maliciously for him to do so. But let me know what y'all think. Maybe y'all think something totally different, and maybe I'm out of line. Maybe I'm in the wrong. But drop y'all comments. But we out of here. Appreciate you guys taking this time to hear me out. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you very soon on the next one. Y'all have a good one. Peace.